Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Forum Room for today's meeting. I will call us to order for this regular meeting of Council of the Municipality of Jasper for February 3rd, 2026. Welcome to all councillors assembled, all of our municipal staff in the room, and those joining us in the gallery of Forum Room. Welcome also to those watching our live proceeding on our Zoom link and those who will watch later on our YouTube platform. I will begin just by recognizing that February is Black History Month in Jasper. Every day there is an activity that you can engage in to learn more about Black history, both locally and at the national level. Every one of those activities is listed on our municipal website, so go there and peruse that, look under Black History Month, and you can find an activity for every day of this month. Councillors, you have before you today's proposed agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or other changes to be made to the agenda? Seeing nothing, I would look for a motion that council approve the agenda for today's meeting as presented. Deputy Mayor Waxer, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed, that is carried. Sorry, there are none opposed, that is carried. We have two sets of minutes for approval today. The first being the minutes of the regular meeting of January 20th, 2026. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections required to be made to those minutes? Seeing none, I would look for a motion that council approve the minutes of the January 2026 regular council meeting as presented. Councillor Melnick, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And we also have before us for approval the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of January 27th, 2026. And I understand that there has been one change made to those minutes, and I will look to CAO Given to speak to that.
Thanks very much, Mayor Ireland. Yeah, in the minutes from the January 27th committee of the whole meeting, there was one motion that had a typo in the original report that was presented to council. When council made a motion on that, they repeated the typo. So the typo stemmed from administration. Council had written it in the motion, and administration would just like to catch it back. This error just repeating it into the future. So on motion number 35/25, transit annual service update, there was a motion that committee direct administration to return to you with the results of the 2026 to 2031 transit business plan. That should have read 2027 to 2031 business plan. So again, the error was mine in leaving it in the recommendation that was in the staff report. But we caught it when we were looking at the minutes and just wanted to bring that to council's attention. We've highlighted it in the minutes here so you could see it. And we're proposing that we just recognize that as 2027 to 2031 for that period of the business plan, recognizing that we're in 2026. So we're not building the business plan for the current year, it's for future years.
Thank you for that, Mr. Given. So the point is that the minutes as presented reflect what should have been, but not exactly what does it. The correction has been made, so the minutes as presented could be approved, acknowledging that there had been a typo earlier. Councillor Milner.
Thank you, Your Worship, and since we're at that particular motion, I just noted that 35/25 should probably be 35/26.
Good catch. Well done. So I'll take that as a motion to amend the minutes. And if there is nothing else, then I would look for a motion to approve the minutes of January 27th, 2026 committee of the whole meeting as amended. That's your motion. Deputy Mayor Waxer, you're happy to make that. Thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 4, delegations. We have no delegations scheduled, but this is the point at our agenda both for regular council meetings and committee of the whole, where we are happy to hear from residents who are present in the gallery in the quorum room to speak to any matter on today's agenda. So I will look and give that opportunity. I see no one coming forward, so I will say that we are dispensed with agenda item 4. Turn to agenda item 5, correspondence. Again, we have nothing on the agenda, and I look to CAO given, and nothing has come in the interim that needs to be addressed by council. So we can move then to agenda item 6, new business, and we begin with agenda item 6.1, Jasper Recovery Coordination Center progress update. Director Park, welcome.
Thank you, Burley. Welcome, Mayor Allen and members of council. Happy to be here with you today to present this week's JRCC update. Also to my left, you may notice Ms. Dolan. She is here as the co-chair of the Construction Coordination Working Group, and she will be presenting for you today the deep dive on construction coordination / debris somewhat. But as per usual, before we get to her for the deep dive, I will run through the regular update for council. One of the initiatives that we've been working on for the last number of months has been collecting the feedback from residents who have had, and leaseholders who have had challenges, mostly around the mass debris removal program, concerns about invoicing and costs there, as well as some general concerns around issues with the settling insurance claims as it relates to the disaster event. So we have been following up over the last number of months with our key interlocutors there, including LS Dawn and the IBC. There are still some ongoing discussions there. I mean, for the most part, what we are doing is we have mobilized some additional resources through the Red Cross, and we are directing people who have been affected to continue those conversations with the Red Cross. At this point, we don't expect to have a particular resolution with the engagement with those other players. It's more about continuing to engage them in the conversation, make sure they're aware of the challenges, and see what progress we can make potentially on addressing some of the ongoing friction points. In regards to debris removal in general, there's only the one remaining property that still has active debris on it, that is in the S block. And the good news there is that case management has again proven to be a good course of action, as that site is now also having active debris removal taking place on it. So working with the leaseholder there and helping them work through that process has proved to be beneficial, and certainly was a preferential approach than trying to go down the enforcement path. So as you can see, 359 of the properties are completely cleared and have their COC. We have the one only that has a little bit of debris remaining on it, and then a small number. We're still trying to go through the final submission of documents to Parks Canada and confirmation for their certificate of completion. On the interim housing side, 351 households are currently in the program. We continue to advance the work at both the Patricia Circle and United Church sites. To get the last of the units mobilized and in place. We're trying to target occupancy on both of those sites before the end of this month. And we have over 975 applications now at this point that have been processed by the JRCC for interim housing. On that note, there is an increasing wait list, especially as we work through the winter, and then as we look to the spring and summer season, we have additional people who are applying for interim housing who would meet the eligibility criteria, and our current wait list is a little over 100 households that we are still processing and working through. We will be communicating to folks where they stand on the wait list and the probability of their ability to find interim housing with us within the program or not, based on the available inventory. And of course, we still do continue to see significant turnover of people who have been in the interim housing program for a period of time, but have moved on and found other accommodation. The number of units that remain available currently are, for the most part, again, the short-term occupancy in the dorms out at Marmot Meadows. And otherwise, all of the other available units are either occupied or essentially spoken for. On the rebuild side of things, February 4th, which is later this week, will be the next builders workshop. I believe that we've got quite strong attendance scheduled for that, up to 40 individuals, in addition to the parks and MOJ staff will be there. And we had a pretty significant milestone in the last couple of weeks, in that the first stick-built, build-in-place rebuild home in Jasper has received occupancy. In fact, we are up to 2 of those now, is my understanding. So not just the modular construction that where they were able to bring in homes, but actually built in place. And so we are going to see a number more of those in the coming weeks and months as more folks come to completion. And you may have noticed that throughout the winter, even now currently, there are still excavation going on and foundations are still being poured. Even in the wintertime, builders are not slowing down as a result of the winter season. So we are still moving at a very reasonable pace through the rebuild process. It's now less than 50% of the leaseholders who have still not applied for a permit in the process. We are expecting that number to continue to change over the next couple of months as we build up in anticipation of the coming construction season. And as previously mentioned, the field unit superintendent approved the changes to the land use regulations, and that those will be coming into effect on February 9th. Here again, you can see where we're at. So 14 folks have received occupancy. That includes both residential and a small number of commercial. We have 66 who are in process. Essentially, that means that their foundations have been poured and capped, and they are at a more advanced stage than that. There are still 30 leaseholders that have their building permits approved and are in that early construction phase. 74 that have a development permit application in or in process, and then 190 who have not yet started the process. Rebuilding properties in town, so 110 building permits have been issued. That represents 244 dwelling units, of which 183 are replacement units, and very significantly, 61 are net new units. On the social recovery side of things, the Pathfinders program continues to move forward. We have a new cohort who are starting, who actually started this week. And we have a little over 80 people who are already trained into the program. We have launched again recently the Find a Pathfinder program and have been doing some comms out there to the community to make sure that people are aware of how they can find that resource. Last week, Doug Olthoff, who is our manager of housing and social recovery, together with the co-director from the park side of things, Lucas Habib, they traveled to Ottawa for the Red Cross Ready Conference, which is essentially the Red Cross's national emergency preparedness symposium, I guess you would call it. They participated and were able to share the recovery experience here in Jasper. And the big takeaway that they came back with was that although there is work in preparation and there is significant work in response, there is not yet a lot of work and not a lot of understanding in terms of how to approach recovery and what is involved in recovery. So people really benefited from the information that those two gentlemen were able to share from the experience here in Jasper. We have launched a new strategy to support residents who are displaced outside of the community, and that includes the Spiritual Circles program and some online offerings to help connect those people who are still displaced from Jasper but still feel very connected here. On the economic recovery side of things, the big update for council is that we are launching the program to assess and modernize Jasper's business registry and licensing system. So we are starting with some internal consultations with MOJ administration. There will be some external consultations with affected businesses and other relevant partners. all of which aiming to bring forward at some point for council approval in the relatively near future, a update to that program. The interim industrial park has reached full occupancy and continues to support fire affected businesses, as does the pop-up village. And that's pretty much the summary from the key points for recovery for the last 2 weeks. I will now hand it over to Ms. Dolan, and she will run you through a deep dive on construction coordination.
Thank you. Hello. So the focus on construction coordination following the fire, Jasper's recovery required coordinated oversights of debris management, construction activity, protection of human health and environment. The Construction Coordination Working Group was established under the Jasper Recovery Coordination Center, JRCC, and brings together Parks Canada municipal staff to coordinate contractors, industrial partners, and occupational health and safety agencies. The working group guides Jasper's transition from impact through recovery to rebuilding by clarifying requirements, managing community impact, supporting an efficient rebuild, and ensuring consistent communication, compliance, and enforcement. The initial recovery efforts required debris removal, environmental testing, utility restoration, active reconstruction, and permitting to occur all simultaneously. With multiple contractors and jurisdictions involved, strong coordination was essential to protect residents, visitors, and the environment. The Construction Coordination Working Group provides oversight, clarity, and coordination to ensure recovering work proceeds safely and efficiently. The working group operates under 6 core objectives that guide all decisions and actions, with safety as its foundation. The approach reduces disruption, clarifies expectations, strengthens government industry cooperation, and supports coordinated debris removal, environmental protection, and community recovery. Site safety, permitting, and enforcement are closely monitored to prevent risks during our recovery. Through the enforcement subcommittee, regulatory roles were clarified and agencies coordinated on safety, environmental protection, and bylaw enforcement. In 2025, this resulted in 2 stop work orders, approximately 12 resident complaints, primarily the use of trespassing, essentially, onto their lots, illegal dumping, and targeted Alberta OH&S actions. Pre-application meetings help prevent issues and contribute to minimal ongoing compliance concerns. Recovery has progressed while Jasper has remained a functioning community and tourist destination. Impacts have been actively managed through SPSU permits, coordinated street use, defined haul routes, and coordinated staging areas. Updates to hauling routes and amendments to the noise bylaw, including Sunday construction, to have improved safety, reduced traffic impacts, and accelerated the rebuilding while minimizing disruptions. Industry coordination has been essential to recovery. Utilities, contractors, and staging areas were aligned through clear expectations, orientations, and regular updates, including monthly rebuilding Jasper bulletins to keep contractors and residents informed. When permits are issued, the MLJ construction coordinators provide utility and site orientations, scheduled inspections, to ensure every build is connected to our infrastructure. We're always available to residents and contractors to ensure rebuilds go as smoothly as possible. Builder breakfasts in 2025 supported a collaboration and communication, and more are planned for this spring. You will get your invites. Industry coordination and engagement to address the limited space. 2 contractor laydown areas have been established to support the rebuild. Parks Canada is managing the soil and rock disposal at the Marmot Pit for clean fill. ACO Electric mobilized immediately after the fire and have replaced the 72 damaged poles and transmission lines to expedite the restoration of power to the remaining homes in destroyed neighborhoods and prepared for the rebuilds. An additional 46 have been replaced as part of the town-wide voltage conversion from 4160 volts to a 24 kV new line. ACO Gas has also replaced some of their main gas mains, and both companies are fully prepared to reconnect all the new builds back to our grid. Collaboration between ACO Gas, ACO Electric, Rogers, and TELUS restored power, gas, and telecommunications across impacted areas, supported residents, businesses, and ongoing recovery efforts. The updated 25 kV main power service was installed underground along the bench. Communication and risk management. Clear communication and proactive risk management have been critical to maintaining safety and progress. Construction coordinators connect directly with contractors and share resources such as the rebuilder guides, which provide a wealth of information for both contractors and leaseholders. Trespassing and space use issues have been addressed through direct communication with leaseholders with clear protocol for sharing limited space. Contractors have been reminded of their responsibility to their permit conditions and to the community. Ongoing concerns are being addressed through proactive outreach and open communication. From impact to recovery. We've already gone through a bit of this, but 99% of the debris has been removed, 94% of environmental testing complete, 110 building permits, 100 excavations and basements have been put in, 57 are at lockup, and 14 are occupied. This great progress shows Jasper's transition from emergency response to a structured recovery and rebuilding. And what's next? The focus has shifted from completing the rebuild to completing the rebuild safely and efficiently. Debris clearance and environmental monitoring will continue. And with approximately 28 new development permits, we're anticipating a busy 2026 construction season, and we'll see current homes under construction occupied as early as March 2nd. The working group proactively coordinating construction zones, traffic accommodations, bin consolidation, dirt management, supply chains, and contractor accommodations. And our progress to date, look how far we've come. The construction coordination team remains committed to supporting residents and contractors and partners as Jasper continues rebuilding. Momentum from the 2025 season has been carried into the early 2026, demonstrating strong dedication from industry and community. The team will continue balancing community needs with regulatory requirements while supporting a safe, coordinated rebuild.
Thank you, Ms. Dolan. That was very well done. And now both myself and Ms. Dolan are happy to answer any questions that council might have regarding the general update or the construction coordination deep dive.
Thank you, Director Park, and thank you, Ms. Dolan. Appreciate the generalized report and the deep dive. Councillors, questions? Councillor Frechette.
Thank you, Mayor Island, and through you to Ms. Dolan. I'm curious about a feature that seems to be being installed in all of the new rebuilds, the basements as such. It's a feature called a lamping well. I know you're familiar with it, but I'm just wondering, and for those on council who don't understand what a lamping well is, it's ostensibly a clean out feature from the home that is put in place between the main sewer line and the house, meant to be used as a clean out in the instance of a plugging. I've talked to a number of contractors who have been putting those in, and it seems uniformly agreed upon that they're potentially more of a nuisance than a fix. I guess their concerns is they're put in obviously before the house is built, and they're basically a 4-inch pipe that comes out of the ground that's made out of some sort of plastic. And throughout the course of the build, those things quite often get busted off, and in some cases completely forgotten about. And not only can you not use them for clean out anymore, you have to clean them out because they fill up with debris and rocks that are quite often too big to be vacuumed out. Now, I guess my question is this a code feature, or is this something that is just a Jasper feature, or is it something that we can arbitrate on, something that somebody can elect not to install?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Frechette. As far as I know, the utility department with the municipality chose to put lamping wells in as a way of being able to, we do a push camera. So it's easier access for the push camera to see if there's any blockages or debris or the condition of the pipes as we move through with our aged infrastructure. I'm sad to hear that some of them are being broken. They are being installed beside the CC, so the shut off to the water, so they should be in close proximity to that. I'm not sure if that is something that, does Bill have a better answer?
Mayor Island, I would maybe just jump in and say if there's some specifics or council's hearing something about development on private lands that they'd like more information on, we can absolutely take that away and make sure that we get the right expertise at the table. Mr. Olin's role is to ensure that contractors aren't doing things they shouldn't be doing on public property and that they're not conflicting with each other as they're working on their project. She wouldn't be in a position to speak to the technical details of the utility system, but we'd certainly get Mr. Michaud, our utilities manager, who might be the right person to speak to that if council is interested in getting more details, or we could circulate maybe by email after.
Okay, thank you. I guess it's just, the big contractors who I've spoken with, and if you know me, I talk to everybody, but, they're wondering why they're doing it. But, anyhow, I appreciate the response. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions for Director Park or Ms. Stoller? I have a couple of questions then. You are, I think, co-chair of the Construction Recovery Working Group. Is that what it's called?
Correct.
Who comprises that working group? How large is it and what representation is on it?
Yeah, I don't have the list in front of me. There is everyone, like people from the MOJ and parks. So there's communications, there's permitting, there's. Carry on.
But it internal to the JRCC and not involving outside agencies, or that's kind of where I'm interested.
So it is primarily MOJ and VRCC, however, and MOJ and Parks Canada. However, for example, representative from Alberta OHS and sits on the Enforcement and Compliance Subcommittee. So we do have provincial partners who do participate as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you. I have a question for you, Director Fark, just so the numbers make more sense to me. Out of that graph that you showed us, a long, colorful graph, I added up, I think, 374 from end to end in various stages of development. The number that we had previously publicized was 358 lost buildings. And so I'm curious as to that differential, the gap between the 358 and the 374.
Absolutely, Mayor Allen, I'm happy to answer that question. So the 358 number was based on the first rapid assessment that was done when shortly after the fire took place. And that was sort of the rough number that we were using during those early days. At some point, I believe it was around the middle of last year, we actually did a cleanup of the data and went back and looked at all of the properties because there were some discrepancies where, for example, we may have had a leasehold that had only lost a garage but not the primary residence, or vice versa. So there was a need to go through and look at how many properties were actually total loss and would require a development permit and a building permit to rebuild. And so that data cleanup essentially resulted in the addition of a small number of additional overall leaseholds being included in that number. So that is actually the final number of the number of properties that we expect to require a permit in order to reconstruct.
Appreciate that. Thank you. I wanted to turn to the very opening comments. You started with debris removal, general. In the written documentation of your report, there is a phrase that says lessons learned are being documented. with particular reference to lessons learned about insurance matters. I'm wondering to what extent those are being documented, where they're being documented, and how they might be shared. Can they be shared with residents? Can they be shared more broadly? My sense is that we are learning an awful lot about insurance generally. And we will not be the last community to be impacted by a disaster such as this. And it would be beneficial for others to start learning our lessons right now. And so just curious as to that documentation and how it might be brought to the fore at the right time.
Certainly, Mayor Ireland. So there's two components of that. One is how we're collecting the information or receiving the information. And then the question, the second part is how we are then documenting and how we might communicate that afterwards. So on the collection side of things, it's been a combination of ad hoc being approached by individuals who have concerns. We've also have the recovery challenges form that people can fill out online, and we've done a number of the open houses. So we use a number of different avenues to try to understand better what the challenges are that people are facing. And a lot of that has brought forward some of the specific challenges as it relates to both insurance and the debris removal program. So that's how we collected the information. We've also, as I have indicated, continue to engage with some of the core other interlocutors like Ellis Dawn and the IBC. We've also requested lessons learned from their side for them to document, because they also were key players in this process. And there are things that they would have learned as a result of their own interventions in Jasper. So we've requested those, and we are somewhat optimistic that we will be able to compile some information from their side as well that can go into a more holistic understanding. We are working with the Conference Board of Canada on the overall Jasper recovery review. And that will include a significant portion around lessons learned. And that is where we expect the majority of the reporting on some of these bigger challenges like the mass debris removal program and insurance to be primarily documented. If we are seeing a need beyond what is presented in those reports, then we can do what we heard reports, similar to what we do after we do a workshop or builders lunches, etc. So we can do a more sort of granular level if that is required. But right now, the primary intent is to make use of the Conference Board of Canada study.
Good, thank you. Good information. Appreciate it. Are there any other questions for? I was going to say doctor, director Park or Dr. Dolan. If not, again, thank you very much for the presentation, and I would look to a councillor for a motion that council received the report for information. Councillor Hall, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 6.2, Director's Report this month. The Director of Protective and Legislative Services. Welcome, Director Dawn.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you. I'm here to present my director's report. I'll highlight some of the items that are in here, but happy to take some questions afterwards. You'll see the major projects section is quite large. I tried to summarize and fit the important pieces in there. Contractual negotiations, so both with our memorandum of understanding with the Jasper Volunteer Fire Brigade, as well as our emergency services agreement, which is the contract we have with Parks Canada to provide services within the national park, are two pretty important pieces for us. So we are renewing those, renegotiating those from cost to what the contracts actually cover. So that's been an active file for us. The fire department is also updating its alerting and records management system, which proves to be a pretty big endeavor. The system we use has been in place for a long time, and this first due is quickly becoming one of the industry standards. So lots of departments in Alberta, in Canada, and the US moving to that system. And the main benefit is that it allows us to really modernize and tap into some of the technology that's out there, which directly impacts first responder safety. The better information they have and the more they can communicate back to dispatch and other functions, it just makes their lives a whole lot safer out there. As approved by council in 2025, we've applied to the Alberta Solicitor General to get our peace officer employer status updated to include moving traffic violations. So that's a level of standard that our peace officers were trained to, but we as an employer had not implemented that new part of the service. So we are working on implementation, including some public communications so the residents know what to expect. This is all based in the traffic safety plan, which council reviewed and approved as part of our application. And sort of skipping to staffing, we've also had a vacancy in one of our peace officer positions, and we've sort of been waiting to get all of our pieces in order so we could hire someone, hopefully with experience. So we've worked our job descriptions, and we're hoping to recruit someone who's done this before in another community to help us launch the program. And we've also been working with some of our partners elsewhere in Alberta that already have the service, including the town of Canmore is a community we work with a lot. They have similar challenges and similar opportunities as a tourism destination. So making sure we get their lessons learned and model our program after some of theirs. We are working on the council chambers AV project. So this room will get an upgrade with microphones and cameras and the whole system. So that's a 2025 capital project, which we ran an RFP and awarded the contract at the end of 2025. And we're having the final meetings before they come out and install it. So by the end of this month, we expect we'll have a brand new system in place. So that will take some orientation and getting used to, as much for council as for staff to run it. But it should drastically improve the quality of the live stream. We should have microphones that last the entire meeting. And automatic switching is one of the big features. So the cameras will work with the mics and provide much better coverage of the council chambers. So that is ongoing. And psychological health of our staff and volunteers continues to be a priority. Things change. People are dealing with different things. There's different events, and it continues to be a bit of a challenge, but an area where we're quite committed to ensuring that we support everyone involved. And we try to also share our knowledge and our resources with the rest of the organization. I think what we're finding is fire departments are becoming leaders in this area because we have to, unfortunately. So that continues to be a priority. I already touched on the staffing, and then good timing on the service trends. So you heard the construction coordination update. Our team, the bylaw enforcement service, is highly involved in this file. So we are part of the construction coordination working group, but I am also the chair of the compliance and enforcement subcommittee. So every 2 weeks is construction coordination, and then the alternating week is compliance and enforcement. We work with Parks Canada very closely, and essentially we try to make sure that we get out ahead of the issues so our officers are out there and can pick up on a lot of stuff that will become a challenge. And I guess we've been quite successful because our compliance and enforcement rates are very good. People comply generally before we have to take any enforcement action. But also the purpose there is to make sure that there's not a concern that falls between the cracks, that jurisdictions are aligned, and that all complaints get an appropriate answer and follow up. And last but not least, communications and engagement. So in addition to some of the stuff I already mentioned in my report, hazard season is upon us, 2026. So you'll see some ramp up in our communications for wildfire preventions and preparedness initiatives. And not included in this report, but is an area of focus for us as well, is emergency management training, exercises, reviewing our plans. This is always a time of year where we're quite active on that file. So that's another area that we're busy with. That's it. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Shaw. Councillor Roger.
Thank you, Mayor Arlen, through you to Sedon. I take it the moving traffic violations mean speeding tickets on Connaught. And I know that coming out from past what used to be the Flower of the Forest Park Inn, there's an immediate 30, and I know the RCMP, what I've heard of in the discretion of not really enforce it too much there because it's everybody's speeding as you come along there. it takes a few hundred yards, or 300 feet to slow down. So I just hope that the town does not set it up so that everybody coming to town is getting a speeding ticket. I just make that comment.
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you. I'll take your comment under advisement. I would, part of our upcoming public communications, but also a document that would probably be helpful to you to understand what we're trying to achieve and what our priorities are, is this traffic safety plan. So we're working with our communications manager, and essentially it identifies the areas of priority that we're going to look at. School zones is one of them. Crosswalks is another. You are correct that speed limits is included as part of that scope. And our intention is not to, go out there and start ticketing everybody. That's not how we function. So compliance first, and we're even going a step further with our public communications to ensure that people understand that this is a new designation and a new authority that we now have. And, don't be surprised if you see our staff out there. The RCMP does have authority to enforce speed limits, obviously. They are drawn in the park and to other priorities and higher priority files, and that's why we don't necessarily see a lot of moving traffic violation enforcement. And there's been a pretty clear message from the community that there's a desire and a need for it. And very much so, revisiting the traffic safety plan is our guiding document, and we're happy to keep the lines of communication open to make sure that the service we provide is aligned with council's expectations.
Thank you for that. And I might add, and you can correct me, that although our officers might now be qualified and soon to be authorized to enforce moving violations, that can also include failing to stop at a stop sign, failing to stop for a pedestrian. These are serious safety concerns, and it is an issue when vehicles fail to stop for people who are in marked crosswalks. I would encourage the people for whom you're responsible to pay attention to that, because it has been and continues to be a concern, and not just people entering the town, but actually many leaving at the west end seem to start accelerating where the Esso station used to be, and they've hit highway speed by the time they get to where the Mount Robson used to be and will be again. So it is a concern. So I appreciate the focus on safety. Councillor Frechette.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to Director Nadell. I see we have the negotiations coming up with Parks Canada regarding the compensation for emergency response costs. I was surprised to learn that our success rate in compensation is so low. I understand it's somewhere in the vicinity of 30%. Now, is this something that what are the steps that you're taking to address that? And is it just a non-starter with Parks Canada, or is it something that is just a boondoggle? It seems to me it's been around for some time, this issue, and given the costs of our fire department and the logistics of keeping it healthy, clearly this is a concern. I just wonder what the process is for that.
Mayor Ireland, through to Councillor Frechette. This issue exists in other communities, but it is particularly aggravating, I think might be the word, for Banff and Jasper, because the roadways on which we respond outside the town site are national or federal roadways. And then, so if you're a community outside of the national parks, who you bill depends on who the road belongs to. So if you're a county and it happens on a county road, you're the authority having jurisdiction. But if it happens on a provincial highway, you just send that bill to Alberta Transportation and they pay for it, and it's pretty straightforward. We don't have that opportunity because the roadways we service are in the national park, so it's a bit of a different approach. So historically, we would bill insurance companies directly. So we collect that information as part of an incident. We get the parties involved, their insurance information, and then we would chase insurance. And we had a relatively good success rate, I want to say, with that approach. And that was, say, 10 years ago. And then we sort of started losing traction or not seeing as many good responses because anywhere else in the province, you contact Department of Transportation. So insurance companies pick up the phone and they go, what are you asking? Like, this is unique to Jasper and Banff, right? So the staff, admin staff that are put in those positions to be chasing those dollars, it's an uphill battle. We've changed our approach in the last couple of years to bill the vehicle owner. So based on registration, we don't go after the insurance company anymore. We just go straight to the owner, which has its challenges as well. And there's trauma involved sometimes, or, you know, someone just deceased on the highway, and then we contact the family to send them the bill. You know, it's a bit of a situation that's fraught with challenges. It is part of the overall compensation considerations in terms of their national park highways. If it wasn't for that contract, we wouldn't be providing the service. So who should be bearing the cost of that cost recovery? Should national park staff be chasing registered owners or insurance companies? Like, there's multiple different ways to go about it there, but I think our success rate is more than 30%. It's definitely not 80 either. I think we're in line with what Banff sees, generally speaking, so they don't have a success rate that's much higher than ours. So it's just a fact of doing business in that area. That's what we have to deal with. How is it reflected in how much we charge for the service to Jasper National Park is very much a conversation, and that's considered in the context of the overall fiscal compensation for the agreement. So I hope I gave you a bit more to think about, even though probably not the answer you're looking for.
No, that was very helpful. I just see this as a perpetual issue that is considerable dollars being lost. It just seems that the insurance coverage that these drivers are carrying should be easy to access for the services that they require during an incident. I guess it's not that straightforward. I would be curious to see what our Banff colleagues say when we meet with them and see what their success rate is, and if they have any insight that we can help to mitigate our. It's a bit of a leak, but anyway, I appreciate the response. Thank you very much.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland, and thank you, Director Nadon, for the report. I have a couple questions and then just a quick comment building on Councillor Roger and Councillor Ireland's talking about enforcement and the speed limits and crosswalks. And, you know, in my time being pre-fire, without there being communities on either end of town, I had many near misses and crosswalks with the children I was walking around town, and I'm happy that our bylaw team will be able to start watching that. And both ends of town, and what Mayor Ireland was saying, like, it's people get to highway speed as they pass the two hotels. And there's families that live there that cross the streets, and they're busier zones now. So I do appreciate that. Two questions. Will we have DRP funded firefighters this summer as well? And my other questions is just around the MOU with the fire brigade. And maybe just an explanation what the fire brigade actually is. Like, is it a nonprofit group? Is it I don't think I've ever learned. Just notes there. I don't know what it's all about.
Mayor Ireland, through to Councillor Hall, to your first question about, I think HARP is the new acronym, DRP funded firefighters. That program has wrapped up in the fall of 2025. The premise under which we were receiving provincial funding was that our volunteers were displaced or deeply affected by what happened in 2024, and we couldn't guarantee that the turnout for the level of service. We're now sort of past that. But also council just approved 2 summer term positions. So that will help maintain our level of service and make sure we get trucks out the door during the busy months, which is the summer period, namely for highway calls. We're a rescue department. We're a highway rescue department primarily in terms of call volume. So that's where we're busy. And then the Jasper Volunteer Fire Brigade, a lot of history and a lot of transitions and a lot of change there in the last, I would say, decade. And we are one of the very few purely volunteer fire departments left in Alberta, certainly, probably the country. And the Jasper Volunteer Fire Brigade is a third-party nonprofit society, and it represents the members that are the volunteers on the Jasper Fire Department. So the municipality of Jasper, through the fire department, has an individual relationship with each of our volunteers. We are responsible for them for occupational health and safety, WCB, training, all kinds of things. The Jasper Volunteer Fire Brigade is sort of their own association where they essentially provide supports and services to their own members. So the fundraising that they do a lot of times is used for community events or sponsoring different things, but largely I would suggest that the amount that we give them annually, which is built into the Protective Services Fire Department budget, supports the members, and we're seeing a lot of mental health supports, psychological health, and all kinds of departmental initiatives that, let's say, for the long-term health and safety of their members as well. So they're investing a lot of that money to be sure that in 10 years, when we find out that they're suffering from different things in relation to things we don't know now, that there's a support system and a net for them. So it is pretty typical for this kind of society to be set up for volunteers, but that it is run and separate from the fire department. But obviously we maintain a very close working relationship with them, and they bring a lot of value to our organization.
Thank you for that.
Councillor Melvin.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Director Nadon. I wanted to comment on the addition of the additional flashing lights at crosswalks, and especially in the areas where we have the interim housing this past fall, I think was much appreciated. And my question would be, I didn't see anything in the budget specifically, but do we have additional dollars for additional sidewalk flashing lights at crosswalks and or the solar speed indicators to be used elsewhere in the community? I don't know if those are capital purchases or if that's just coming out of operations. I guess the traffic advisory committee would find recommendations where those things might be useful in enforcing moving traffic violations.
Thank you, Councillor Melnick. You are on the right track. That protective services involvement, so the bylaw service involvement is through the traffic advisory committee, and that's where we interface with operations. So actually the compliment on the new flashing lights should be directed at Director Donaldson, not at me. So it would have come out of the operations budget. So they are responsible for the roadway, for the signage, and sort of the liability for everything that happens there lies with operations. Our part is enforcement. So we have a lot of insight on the actual use of the streets and how people behave or don't behave or what might be needed. And the traffic advisory committee is the venue where we get together and discuss these things. So we have input into those high priority areas, but as far as budget, we'd have to get back to you based on information from operations. And yeah, I would suggest it came out of operating, but I'm not 100%.
Thank you, appreciate the explanation, and I imagine if there are concerns noted by residents, the route to go would be through the advisory committee requesting potential changes. I know in one area of town we did have requests for the flashing lights and a high traffic area with low line of sight. So that's when those things are really helpful for safety of pedestrians.
Mayor Arlen, through to Councillor Melnick, we received those inputs in a variety of different places. There is the feedback form on the website is always the easiest in terms of you can direct it to the right department, but certainly any observations forwarded to operations at or bylaw at, we do funnel them all to the traffic advisory committee and look at them in that venue and determine whether action is required or not.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Are there any further questions for Director Nadon? If not, I will thank you again. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Melnick is not yet.
I was about ready to make the motion that council receive the report for information.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor Melnick. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And so again, I will just return to Thanks to you, Director Godon, for your report. That takes us to agenda item 6.3, the 2025 property tax receivable write-off request for roll number 500,000. Grandiose number. This comes to us by way of recommendation from Committee of the Whole. So unless anyone has any additional questions for administration regarding the matter, I would just look to a councillor to make the motion. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland, and I will happily make this motion for hopefully the last time. That council authorized a write-off of $10,802.15 for property tax receivable for roll 500,000.
Thank you for that motion. I see no signifying debate. I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That was carried. Agenda item 6.4 comes to us by way of administration, looking after our interests to coordinate our activities better. Mr. Given, did you want to introduce the motion, or at least the recommendation, I should say?
Absolutely happy to, Mayor Ireland. Administration doesn't often bring reports to council, but only council can adjust council's calendar, and so that's why we're here with this. As you all know, we are planning on going away on council's review planning session later this month. We're planning on departing on February 17th. We'll again be going to Banff, trying to see how things are going down there and to meet with Banff Council. That departure time is in the afternoon, and so administration is recommending it would probably be wise to adjust the start time of the council meeting to be a morning start time rather than afternoon start time, so we can travel to Banff in the afternoon. And so the recommendation is that council approve the adjustment of the start time of February 17th regular council meeting from 1:30 p.m. to 9:30 a.m. So just switching to that morning time slot.
Thank you for that, CEO Given, and thank you for administrative staff flagging this issue. Ms. Acorn, undoubtedly. No? In any event, thank you. Any comments or questions from councillors? And if not, I would look for a motion from a councillor. Deputy Mayor Waxer.
Thank you, the council adjust the start time for the February 17th, 2026 regular council meeting from 1:30 to 9:30.
And we'll assume that you said PM and AM.
From 1:30 p.m. to 9:30 a.m.
Thank you for that. Seeing no indication of debate, I'll call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And that takes us to agenda item 6.5, Family and Community Support Services Association of Alberta representation. Added here by Councillor Waxer, Deputy Mayor. So go ahead, Deputy Mayor Waxer.
Thank you for that. In November 2024, I requested and received council approval to have my name stand for election as a board member of the FCSS AA. The Family and Community Support Services Association of Alberta, FCSS AA, was founded in 1981 as a member-driven organization dedicated to bringing family and community support services programs from across the province together. They provide a platform for member programs to connect and collaborate so that they can maximize resources and speak with an informed, credible, unified voice to all stakeholders. In many ways, they fill a similar role to Alberta municipalities as the relationship between Alberta munis and municipalities. The FCSS board is made up of the president, who is elected at the FCSS AGM by voting delegates and by representatives elected from each region in the province. The representatives from the region are primarily elected officials who are endorsed by their council and with their FCSS responsibilities added to their list of committee appointments. I have been elected by the Yellowhead region until October 2027, and I would like to request that my role on the FCSS AA be added to my committee appointments until that date. This role has been handled primarily, this role in the Yellowhead County, in the Yellowhead region has been handled primarily by Yellowhead County, Edson, Whitecourt, and Hinton in the past. There was a feeling in the region that it was important that Jasper take a turn. And the last time Jasper represented the region was in the mid-1980s. And I would just further add that all travel expenses are covered.
Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Waxer, are there any questions of councillors be directed at Deputy Mayor Waxer just regarding her involvement in that organization? If not, go ahead, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to Councillor Waxer. We had been given the report last year, and we endorsed your involvement. Can you remind me how many the timeline commitment, is it a 1-year term or 2-year term?
It is now a 2-year term. I stepped in at a mid part of it. And it completes in October 2027.
Do you have a form of motion, or did you articulate it well enough in your presentation?
I didn't form a motion, but
I can try.
Okay.
I fully support this motion. I think we're very lucky to have you in that role. Considering your background in that role. I can make a motion to add the role, I'm just gonna make sure I got this right, a representative at the FCSS AA.
FCSS AA.
To add the role of representative at the FCSS AA to Councillor Waxer's assigned committees.
And for administration, I think that is sufficient for it. It only matters on the per diem expense claim. Take it, and you said expenses for travel.
That's correct.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the motion. Councillor Hall, any debate? I will call the question. All those in favor?
I wasn't sure I could vote.
You must oppose. There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 7, notices of motion. There have been none brought forward for preparation of the agenda or when we looked at additions to the agenda, so I assume there are no notices of motion. So that takes us to councillor reports. Councillor Hall.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ireland. Last Monday, the 26th, I took part in a YRL, which is the Yellowhead Regional Library Board, and in an onboarding training for new board members. That afternoon, and this isn't an assigned committee or role I take, but I'm part of the Climate Caucus, and they offer weekly, bi-weekly, monthly Zooms, a lot around elected officials' roles in our ever-changing climate. And I sat through a Zoom. I also saw Councillor Melnick's name on that Zoom as well, around integrating climate considerations into council decision making. And Mayor Demano out of Banff and Mayor Knack from Edmonton were speakers in that one. I found it very interesting. And moving forward, I would like to share those emails with the rest of council because I do find these Zooms quite helpful. The 27th, that was last Tuesday, I took part in, I'm on the library board and library board orientation training. On Thursday, council had an opportunity to sit through a workshop around our equity, diversity and inclusion plan. And I wanted to take this opportunity to publicly thank Lisa Riddell and her team for leading a really great workshop. And I just feel we're in really good hands with her and that team running that file. The next day, most of council were able to attend an informal lunch with ATCO, which I found incredibly helpful. Just learning about, their role since the beginning of the disaster until now and all the steps they're taking. And they're a really great partner in our community. And that's everything for me.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Roger.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Ireland. Last week, I believe it was Monday, I attended the Jasper Food Alliance meeting, which is a quarterly meeting. And I thought it was very good. They're very enthusiastic. Everybody is working hard, I think, to help in the town. That was one topic that was interesting to me was that the grocery stores are working hard to make their for sale items or specials more acceptable rather than just on a flyer. They're putting it on email and also having codes that you can get with your phone when you're in the store, and not just giving food away, but making it more affordable for people. I think is a good thing. The one thing I noted is that we're relying quite a bit on volunteerism at the activity center through Glenda the Great catering. The soup that she makes every day, it looks like she kind of does it on her own dollar, and apparently it gets about 60 people a day. A lot of older people, and becomes a very social event where they get together and have their soup. And I'm not sure how, since we're relying on that volunteerism, maybe it won't be a forever thing, but I kind of hinted that maybe the town could support them a little bit if they needed it somewhere in the future. So we can address that again in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Roger. Other reports? Councillor Melvin?
Thank you, Your Worship. First report I'd like to give is my associate here, Councillor Burchett, myself attended the Community Futures Board of Directors meeting on January 22nd in Hinton. The following day, a number of us were back in Hinton, and we attended the local authorities elected officials course, which is mandatory for elected officials as it relates to understanding our role during a state of local emergency and how we get to that point. And on the 28th, I attended the Jasper Partnership Initiative meeting, which was a great opportunity for me to get back into communicating with other members of that initiative. It's a great forum for us to have discussions regarding the town site and our other partners, tourism partners in the area, including Marmot Basin and Tourism Jasper, Chamber of Commerce, and Parks Canada. So it's a great opportunity to talk about opportunities moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Melvin. Councillor Burchett? We did it for you?
Yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I will report that January 21st, together with Councillor Conscrew, Councillor Hall, Councillor Melnick, Councillor Waxer, Deputy Mayor Waxer, I think we all attended NETMA. It was a good opportunity to mix with people in the community on January 23rd, along with Councillor Elnick, Brichette, Deputy Mayor Waxer, Councillor Hall, Councillor Conscrew, and I. We all attended that course in Hinton, put on by Alberta Emergency Management. A really good course. That same evening, January 23rd, I spoke at the opening of BuzzFest that was here in the JAG Gallery and overflowing into the quorum room, a really good crowd that evening, celebrating the arts in Jasper. It was a wonderful evening. On the 28th, I had a virtual meeting with others, with Minister DeBrusen, who is now Minister responsible for Parks Canada. But that was similar to what Councillor Hall was speaking about, the engagement in climate caucus. There is a subset of that, which is the Elbows Up for Climate Coalition. And in that capacity, I was asked to chair that particular virtual meeting with our guest, Mr. DeBrusen. And perhaps this is something we can take up at our strategic retreat, but it might be worth council considering whether we want to get engaged in that. Councillor Hall has already indicated that she and Councillor Melnick attend those climate caucus sessions virtually that are offered. And I have at least my fingers in the Elbows Up campaign, and I think it's important work for our community. But we can look at that further. Of course, on the 29th, I also attended with others the council workshop on diversity, equity, and inclusion held in this room, which was really helpful. The APCO lunch on January 30th, where we got answers to a number of questions that we will find a way, I think, to get some of that information that we as councillors received passed on to the public, because they deserve to know why things are proceeding as they are. On the 31st, I spoke at the street party, part of Jasper in January, which has been going on now for 38 years, and I think the street party itself for over 20 years. And wildly successful, and Councillor Hall was MC and did a great job once again. Yesterday, following on the announcement of Minister Olszewski having been formally appointed as federal ministerial lead for Jasper Recovery, I had a virtual meeting with the minister late yesterday afternoon just to get her up to speed on matters relating to Jasper Recovery, and we spoke about how in her new confirmed role, she might be able to assist us in our ongoing efforts with recovery. So a great meeting, and good to have that connection again. And then immediately following that, I did an interview with CDC all about the appointment of Minister Oleszki to the ministerial lead, and that brings me up to date still today. Deputy Mayor Waxer.
Yes, on January 22nd, I attended an online course on the role of the relationship between healthcare and municipalities. And it was an interesting session. As well, on January 22nd, I attended the Uplift event as part of Jasper in January. And also as my appointment as advisor to that group. And January 30th, I attended the APCO lunch, and afterwards met at 6:27 to catch up on all that I missed at the Equity and Diversity workshop. And the reason I missed that was I was at the strategic planning sessions for FCSSAA.
Thank you for that report, Deputy Mayor Waxer. Are there any other reports from councillors? All right, if not, turn to agenda item 9, upcoming events. There is a list of matters upcoming, including the economic development for elected officials course in this room on Thursday. 3 of us are attending the 2026 Tourism Advocacy Summit Sunday, Monday, Tuesday next week, and so we will be down to bare quorum. We're meeting next week, assuming that the other 4 are all able to attend. February 11th, there is the Jasper Park Chamber of Commerce Speaker Series featuring Ron Holman, Christine Lockdown, and Genevieve Caron, our new superintendent. So hopefully people will be registered for that, 8 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, February 11th at Papa George's. There is an upcoming NEPA this month, location to be announced on February the 18th. And there is a deadline for people to get in nominations for the mayor's recognition awards. Are there any other upcoming events that should be brought to the attention of council? All right, there are not, and there being no further business, I would invite a motion to adjourn. Councillor Melvin. All those in favor? There are none opposed. We are adjourned. Thank you for those who watched our proceedings live on our Zoom platform, and thank you to all those who will watch the proceedings on our YouTube channel. And good day to all.